Denver Broncos rookie cornerback Jahdae Barron is as advertised. So is RJ Harvey. We'll tell you what we saw from them during Broncos rookie minicamp on Saturday. Here on today's episode, Locked On Broncos.
You are Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, Broncos Country? Welcome to a bonus episode, Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for all your Broncos news, content, coverage, analysis, and more. This is the place to be every single day, all year long. So a special shout out to all the everydayers out there in Broncos Country. Thanks for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day, however you choose to do so. I'm Cody Roark, credentialed Broncos reporter from Mile High Sports.
And I'm Sayre Bedinger, site expert, predominantlyorange.com.
And on today's bonus episode, you're going to get Broncos rookie minicamp reaction and content. Had a chance to be there in Dove Valley on Saturday as the rookies took the field for day 2 of rookie minicamp. And we'll go through why Jahdae Barron, RJ Harvey, Pat Bryant were as advertised when we got our first glance at the Broncos rookie draft class at practice. We'll also dive deep into why Sean Payton is excited about the traits that Caleb Lohner possesses at the tight end position. And we'll also go through why several other players, including Pat Bryant, but also some other undrafted rookie wide receivers like Courtney Jackson stood out during rookie minicamp. You get all that reaction, much more here in today's episode of the show. Sayre, look, it was a scorching day in Dove Valley. I'm sunburnt to a crisp here, but it was our first chance to watch the Broncos rookie draft class up close and personal here. Undrafted rookie free agents, a few tryout players as well. And you could tell that there was this transition period from, it may have been different how we did it at college. Now this is what it's like at the pro level. And I think Sean Payton, his coaches, did a tremendous job kind of setting that tone here from what we've been able to see, because we know what practice looks like on a day-to-day basis for them. But Jahdae Barron, RJ Harvey, Sayre, I'll tell you this, they look exactly as advertised.
Well, that's exactly what you want to hear, right? When you're talking about a rookie class that's going to have to come in and make instant impact, you want to see those guys hit the ground running. And I was just watching your practice recap video, Cody, as well over there at Mile High Sports, and seeing some of that footage. I mean, those guys, they look explosive. They got quick feet. RJ Harvey looks like an NFL running back, if I can say it that way. I don't know about that number 37. I think there's been a lot of debate about his jersey number out there. We'll see if that ends up actually being his number at the start of the year. But all kidding aside about jersey numbers and stuff, I think that what you wanted to see, what you needed to see from a rookie class that's expected, like especially with those two guys, Jahdae Barron, RJ Harvey. I mean, you take a corner in round 1 on a defense that's already loaded, that guy better be good. And you take a running back round 2 after trading down, moving down, that's your biggest roster hole. That guy better be good. So to hear that these guys hit the ground running at rookie minicamp, I think that's great news for everybody in Broncos country.
Yeah, and it seems like they're picking everything up relatively quickly from terminology. We'll hear from Jahdae Barron in this episode a little bit. Had a chance to ask him a question in the locker room following practice. But, one of the things that Sean Payton raved about, we talked about post-practice, because, look, we'll be upfront and honest about these practices. There is no physical contact. It's run-bys. Defense is running by an offensive player. The offensive guy, keeps his legs churning there. There's an emphasis on finishing the play. But, when you are playing corner, you get to cover these receivers in press coverage. You get to play off-ball coverage. It's full speed. And the thing with Jahdae that you absolutely see, and he was working inside the nickel, outside, things that we saw him do at Texas. But, man, for a guy like Jahdae, the thing is that Sean Payton said is you sometimes worry about young corners and not recognizing route, the splits in the receivers, in terms of how close they are, how far apart they are, and what route concepts can come off of that. You see right away just how smart he is. And he's communicating. That's one thing I'll say with Jahdae. When I watched him up close, during Saturday's practice, he is communicating what he's seeing, and he's communicating it to, the guy playing inside next to him, the safety, and they're echoing that to the linebackers. You can tell the pickup is there, and he'll tell you there's some of the things that he's adjusted on as obviously, he's transitioning from learning what it's like to be a college football player to now being in the NFL and what's being thrown at you at the NFL from an offensive standpoint. But RJ Harvey, another player that Sean Payton said is picking things up relatively quickly to what they want to do. And just once again, I mean, he's big. I don't want to say he's got the upper body of Audric Estime. I feel like he's got It really, like, his quads are ridiculous. I'm sure you've seen some videos or pictures posted out there. But for a guy that is as big and bulky as he is, it's crazy to see him move and cut and just shift and be as explosive as he is, if that makes sense there. That, Sean Payton was trying to put that into context a little bit throughout the day. But these guys early on, no pads. They move well as advertised, and I'm very curious to see what they're going to look like when the pads come on, because that's really where the real evaluation happens. These guys can look great in a helmet and shorts and a jersey, but when the pads come on, that's where you really tell. But the first initial impressions, Sayre, they're very, very good there. And I'll say this, Pat Bryant and Caleb Lohner, like, you talk about guys that are big. Pat Bryant is a big guy. Caleb Lohner is massive in terms of just without pads there. So there's so much to kind of break down here, but overall it was a good day. But Sayre, even touching on some other things too about, Saturday's practice, Ian Book came in as the quarterback. Apparently Desmond Ridder was supposed to come in. Then he decided he may evaluate his career in football. Something may change along those lines. So Ian Book came in and, gets to reunite with Sean Payton. And he said, one thing Sean said is it's good to have a veteran inside, like the huddle, a guy who understands, how we want the tempo, how we want the cadence, getting in and out of the huddle. So like those little minute details there. I just felt like Saturday's practice, for looking at a rookie minicamp, this is the second year in a row being able to see it. I just felt like it was crisp and it was efficient. It was a good day from what, my eyes have seen.
And that's exactly what we need, right? Because this is one of the older draft classes in the league as well. The Broncos, I think, had the highest average age among any team in terms of players drafted this year. Now, a couple of guys kind of tilted the scales a little bit on that one, but certainly it's an experienced group of players. And I love what RJ Harvey had to say, Cody, at practice when he talked about how he wanted to be there in Denver. He wanted to get drafted by the Broncos because of Bo Nix, right? And you could tell just seeing what he said, I'm ready to get to work with the vets. Like, these guys are ready to contribute to a winning team. And that's what I think excites me the most about this incoming rookie class, is that they're joining something that it's kind of like the 2012 class for the Denver Broncos, right? When you brought in Peyton Manning that offseason, you had Von Miller win rookie of the year before, like things were trending upwards. And so when you added guys like, Derek Wolfe, Danny Trevathan, Malik Jackson, all those guys in that 2012 draft, what they were joining was something that was already in process of ascending. And I think that's what gets me so excited about this rookie class as well, is that these guys understand that they're part of something now, that they don't have to be part of rebuilding the Broncos. They don't have to bring the Broncos back to life. They don't have to resuscitate the Broncos playoff, record. They don't have to get back into the playoffs for the first time since 2015. Like, they get to join a team that now has legitimate aspirations in the AFC. And I think you're seeing and hearing that in their mentality.
And the foundation, as you mentioned, is really kind of already in place for them. So I think it's going to allow these guys to kind of fit into the culture seamlessly. And look, there's a handful of guys I think are going to do tremendously well here. But we'll obviously hear from Broncos cornerback Jahdae Barron here a little bit in today's episode of the show here. But we're also going to hear from Sean Payton and why he's excited and the traits that Caleb Lohner has here. He went into detail about what he saw specifically that stood out. You're going to get that reaction and much more here on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's episode, Locked On Broncos, is brought to you by our friends over at the Game Time app, and there is nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere that you must experience live, and this year's matchups are already delivering. And if you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats. Even for the biggest playoff games, prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer.
And Cody, if you look at the app right now, you're talking about NBA playoffs going on. I don't even live anywhere near the action, but if I did, I mean, you could get it Celtics, Knicks, Nuggets, Thunder, any of these games that are happening in the NBA playoffs right now, you can get 60% off certain sections of the game through the Game Time app. And I love that you can see your seat view before you buy. You invest money in tickets to a game, right? You're investing in an experience. You want to create create memories with your family. With the Game Time Guarantee, you're not only getting the best deal, but you can also look at your seat before you even get to the event. That's what I love the most about the app.
And you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
The Denver Broncos got themselves some big time sleepers in this year's draft, and now we finally had the coaching staff able to see them out there on the field. Sean Payton gushing over Caleb Lohner, and obviously, like Cody and I mentioned in the first segment, the first round and second round picks of this team showing out at their first rookie minicamp. Broncos Country, we're going to get you all the updates on the rookie minicamp that happened over the weekend. But first, want to say thank you for tuning in, making Locked On Broncos your first listen of the day every single day. We appreciate you so much. Cody, I'm excited to hear more about this because obviously you were boots on the ground there. I'm getting the secondhand sort of information on all this, but it's exciting nonetheless. Anytime you get to hear Sean Payton talk about the rookies and just get to hear their first impressions, right? First impressions matter. I think especially for Sean Payton, who has he could probably write a novel about first impression stories with every great player he's ever coached, right? So these matter to him. They matter to the team. And obviously these rookies are coming in and they are showing out like we talked about. I think the theme is hitting the ground running.
Yeah, and that's the thing that, in terms about impressions, like Sean said, the most important thing is, okay, hey, we get to meet these guys. You generate an impression when you're talking to them, you shake their hands. He says, but it's having them in the building at the facility, seeing them interact with one another in the team cafeteria, how they are on meetings. He says that's when you really start to piece a lot of these things together, because in the pre-draft process, you may interview or bring some of these guys in, but you may not get to know them as fully as you want to, as more so like, hey, this guy is here. He's going to be here all throughout the summer. Now this is an impression, and those impressions matter. And I think you learn a lot too, just from my observation here, Sayre, as a former coach and as a former player. You get to see how a guy is when he's actually doing stuff in a football structure environment. And it's different. When you're going to a pro day and you're working a guy out, there's a structure there, but it's nothing like, hey, we have our own practice. We have our own way of doing things here, and how they go about it. That's one of those big keys is, how are they adjusting to the altitude? There was an emphasis on hydration. Sean's very big on making sure that these guys get the proper nutrition in, the proper hydration in, monitoring their wear and tear. That's one thing that the Broncos, I think, do a really good job of, which has helped them, I think, in the injury department over the last couple of years when you look at the data. But, you talked about the excitement that he's had. I asked him about Caleb Lohner, the limited sample size in terms of overall football snaps. But when I saw him on Saturday, man, this is a guy who moves extremely well, Sayre. Here's what Sean Payton had to say about Caleb Lohner.
It's limited. So this is a basketball player for most of his career. He plays a year of football, count the snaps, count the catches. I get it. And yet you see traits, you see movements. I'm not a big fan of the Big 12 Pro Day because a player like him gets 6 routes instead of 20 that he would get at his own Pro Day. So hopefully that's going away. But there's 2 or 3 clips where I'm like, play it again. And then when you watch them move, and even in our first 2 days here, and people bring up Jimmy, and now Jimmy was a 3rd round pick, I get it, but there were some similarities in that he only played a year, 80 some snaps. I think he had 18 catches. And so, yeah, we got to coach and develop. In other words, if it was already present when you watch him and you guys see him and shake his hand and stand next to him, like, holy cow. And so there's traits there that excite me. And then just visiting with him and, his intentionality and his excitement about it. Man, I'm excited to watch it.
Cody, I can't wait to get to see this guy in person, because I know you and I were talking before we even started recording here, and you're like, man, Caleb Lohner, just a big, big dude in person. And I think with those traits that come through, that's exactly what you're looking at, right? When it comes to the NFL draft, I mean, a lot of times guys do get drafted based on production at the college level, but how many times have we seen guys get picked because of their traits? And I think with a guy like this, you're excited more so about that than you would be if a guy played for 4 years and, man, he ran a great 40-yard dash and he had a great vertical jump and all these metrics and things like that, but just didn't produce for 4 years. I think you're more excited with a guy like this because he kind of produced within the limited snaps that he got, as opposed to not producing over a bunch of games, right? So the traits plus the intrigue of the limited sample, I think that's something that, man, if I resonate with Sean Payton on this one big time.
Well, and I think another thing that he kind of made very clear when talking about that is, like, obviously there's traits there. You want to see a player develop, but he kind of put the onus on, it's up to us as coaches to get him to where he needs to be as well. It's not just, hey, we like the traits, the player's got to get there. It's, we got to help this guy get to this spot too. So he put the onus on coaching as much as anything. But we're going to transition around some other sound bites as well. We got a chance to hear from Broncos defensive end Savion Jones. And one of the things that we asked him is, have you had a chance to sit down and study the Broncos defensive tape from last season?
Oh, yeah, man. Just being able to study their game. First of all, just being able to be in a room with a team that produced the most sacks in the league. That's just, it makes you want to study under them. Having that chance to be in that room is like, for a young guy like me, it's like a sponge. I'm just soaking up all the experience I can get.
When you're playing with the big time players, right? We just saw an interview with Zach Allen and Chris Long. I mean, that's a pro's pro right there. John Franklin Myers. I thought it was interesting. Zach Allen talked about how well those guys played off each other despite not knowing each other. I can't help but feel like that's going to be something Savion Jones, Cody, is going to be part of that sponge process, that he's going to be learning, hey, how do I play off of the guys that I'm playing with? Because that's as important as being a disruptor, as having a quick snap get off, all those sorts of things. So adding him to the mix, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I caught Zach Allen's interview, and that's what I was thinking about as well. I said, these veteran guys, they're going to take care of these younger guys in terms of getting them up to speed on how that culture is inside that position room. Apparently, a couple of those defensive linemen, in the Broncos veteran room on the D line, they went to Turkey, for some hair implants this season. So we'll see who's got a brand new hairline this upcoming season. I'm curious about that. But let's now transition here to Jahdae Barron, obviously star of the day. He's always going to be the focus because he's the first round pick. Had a chance to catch up with him inside the Broncos locker room following practice.
No, it's just fun to be out here. Last time putting on a helmet was a long time ago, so I'm just enjoying the process. But it's good just learning information, taking the information in from all the coaches and things like that. But I'm just blessed, truly blessed.
So far, quickly coming from obviously playing at the college level, what's been the biggest transition so far in your first just couple of pro practices?
I'm just adjusting, I'm trying to learn the play schemes and things like that, the concepts that the offense are running now at this level. A lot of different motions, a lot of different shifts and things like that. So I'm just adjusting it and putting it into my game.
For those that aren't watching on YouTube, Cody, they've got to subscribe on YouTube, because you would not be able to see Jahdae Barron's incredible traps in that video. My gosh, the guy never misses traps day at the gym. What an impressive guy, right? I mean, just listening to him there, he's so well-spoken. I feel like this guy's going to be an absolute grand slam addition to this defense in 2025.
I mean, he moves well. Like I said, his communication style is on point. I think once you get him, and look, we're going to have OTAs and minicamp here in the next couple of weeks where we're going to see Jahdae Barron working in with Pat Surtain and the veteran guys. I think getting these young guys their first look is great. Now seeing how they transition in with the veteran players, I think is going to be big. But yeah, you're right with Jahdae. I mean, he just – there is a lot of different motion concepts in the NFL and compared to the college game. And so it's just understanding how their coverage responsibility changes. He's picked things up quickly, and I think that's going to be a process that continues to accelerate here. I want to highlight, though, a couple of undrafted rookie free agents, though, Sayre, before we close out today's bonus episode. Locked On Broncos, number 89, Courtney Jackson, I think, is going to be a player to watch during training camp, potentially into the preseason. I thought he ran routes relatively well. Thought he did a good job. And I can't give away what routes, I'm not allowed to report or talk about that stuff, but he has an understanding on how to beat certain coverages, whether it be zone, whether it be man. I thought he had a crisp day. Jerwan Newton, also another player. Number 80, his name has escaped me at the top of my head right now. I think it's Joaquin Davis, if I'm not mistaken. Those three guys stood out to me in a big way. Joaquin Davis has got really good size, 6'4", very athletic, and go up and high pointed. I just thought the wide receiver room between Pat Bryant, talk about Courtney Jackson, Jerwan Newton, Joaquin Davis, these guys I thought all stood out during the practice, which we were able to see ultimately on Saturday. That's the only practice media gets to see of Broncos rookie minicamp. They'll wrap things up on Sunday. No coverage there. But we have a lot of stuff coming your way here, folks. We got the Broncos schedule release coming out this upcoming Wednesday. You'll get reaction from Sayre Bedinger and myself here. But with that said, Broncos Country, want to say thank you so much for tuning in, rocking with us here on a bonus episode, Locked On Broncos on the weekend. And here's what you can expect on Monday's episode of the show. Sayre and I, we're going to sit down. We're going to take a look at some undrafted rookie free agents. We're also going to go through the next couple of days and give our schedule prediction before the release even happens. Where will the Broncos go? How many primetime games will they get? You got a lot to look forward to this week here on Locked On Broncos. So make sure if you're not an everydayer, subscribe or follow so you never miss out. Broncos Country, we'll see you next time.